Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the eighth episode of The Second Opinion. I'm your host, Arvin, and we have.
Hi, I'm Emeera.
Okay, next.
Hi, I'm Jashin.
My name is TJ or Trimanjot Singh Anand, and I'm currently a year 1 MBBS student, just progressed to year 2.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, now that everyone's here, our topic for today is actually mental health during the COVID-19 crisis, and even now, seeing as it's still continuing in a lot of countries. So I'd like to start off with a question more towards each of your own personal experiences. So just share a little bit of your experience of your own mental health during the lockdown, if your country had one, or just during the crisis.
Yeah, so the outbreak of COVID-19 has definitely taken a toll on all of our mental health. I think the fact that everything was happening really quickly and there was a lot of uncertainty caused a lot of panic. Definitely for like people who were away from home, it was kind of chaotic that you have to come back home on time and all that thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, in terms of mental health, I think you have like a fair share of good days and bad days, and yeah.
So I would say that Akira had a pretty okay time, except she had to run back home.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough then.
Honestly, I think till we had our final exams, I think we had something to keep us busy and, something to focus on rather than everything that was going around. But after that, I started like seeing so much bad news every day, and it did have an effect. Like I wanted to like stay away from all this news, and it was just a lot of like depressing things that were coming into my mind. So I had to somehow make my mind more productive or like direct it in a more creative way. And I did a lot of things to like try and move my mind away from there. Like I started writing and I like exercise and stuff. So like these small things like helped me like stay sane. And like I video call my friends every day. Like I literally call them up every hour and I'm like, are you alive? Are you alive still? So I keep annoying them. I think you just have to stay connected with your friends. That keeps like, a
That's
bit.
true.
I think I'm the same with everyone else. Since I'm living in the school dorm, I was staying in the dorm until RMCO, like when we are allowed to travel interstate to go back to our hometowns. So during that time, I also video call most of my friends to stay alive, because there's no one in the house to talk with because they all live nearby and they
went back.
Early.
Yeah.
And we had our exams, so it's like something to keep us moving on. And you're constantly doing something all the time. And I completed my second year during the quarantine, and I did some workouts, and that's pretty much it.
Did you feel at any point like very anxious or depressed or something like that?
Yeah. There are a few times that I feel that.
I see. And so you mainly just focus on doing workouts and like focusing on your exams to get through it?
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, so TJ, please share with us your experiences during the lockdown/crisis.
So I am right now in India, and my experiences up to quite extent are similar to Atik because we both are in the same country, and the conditions in India are not really good right now because as the months progressed, and every day we had a growth of like 20,000 cases to 40,000 cases. So the lockdown kept on hardening every day. We could hear ambulance sirens and bad news coming up. You're just restricted to your house. And especially in my case, where my parents and my uncle, my aunt, they all are doctors.
Yep.
So they had to go to the COVID wards, and you always had that sense of fear that they could get infected. What if the PP didn't function? When they come back, what if we get infected?
That's true.
So those feelings, those ideas, those situations were really traumatizing. But then the government suddenly changed their policy and they started to aim towards herd immunity, and they started opening everything. So again, that was kind of a good thing because everything started to open and we were not that restricted. But still, that sense of fear increased because it was like everyone is on the ground now, so your chances of getting infected were more. So it's been a seesaw here in India with the mental situation because the policies keep on changing and the time for acclimatizing to these new policies is really less. So
I see. That sounds rather traumatic, actually. I'm very grateful Malaysia has coped with it very well.
I mean, as well as like politics, right? In India,
yeah.
the regulations and politics in India is also like really uncertain, and they just change according to, what benefits them.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so in your own opinions, right, who do you think is the most affected during this crisis in terms of mental health?
I think there's no doubt that the first are the people who are losing their jobs. Obviously, they have a lot of mental pressure of what to do. They don't even have enough money to eat a meal for the next day. So at least in India, they're affected very badly, and everybody is like losing their jobs like within seconds. It's very scary right now. Like we don't know who. Like my dad might lose his job the next day, so it's very scary right now. They are the ones who are under a lot of pressure, and obviously they have a lot of responsibilities. So
That is very true.
I think those most affected are old people, with especially those with their children who live in other affected places like other countries. So with the borders closed, I don't think their children can come back and visit them. So
That's true.
they're probably quite worried about their children, but there's nothing that they can do. And I agree with Atik, like that those who are about to lose their jobs, they are in very serious mental health problems as well.
Yeah. So I think it's also prudent to add, especially in the case of old people, as Chashin mentioned, that those who, for example, like because now there's like restricted movement control order in Malaysia, especially, I think some weeks previously, a lot of malls and major grocery stores actually stopped elderly citizens from entering. So that was actually a bit of an issue. So like if you didn't have children, didn't have anyone to help you out, you were very much in trouble as an elderly person in Malaysia.
I kind of disagree with the thing that who is most affected because what I have seen is everyone in their own sense is the worst affected type. For me, I could be the worst affected because all my family members are the frontline workers and I'm always at the point of danger. For an engineer or a professional worker, he is the worst affected one because he can lose his job anytime.
Yes, true.
For since in India, 60 to 80% of the population is poor and they are farmers and wage workers. So those 80% are the worst affected because they have stopped getting any wages, and the government schemes, although they are giving free rations and everything, it will take time to reach them.
True.
So every person in this quarantine, in this COVID era, is the worst affected type.
Yeah, I think I agree with you.
It's just that we can only see one perspective, not the other.
I don't think anybody is most affected. It's just everybody's fighting different evils right now.
Exactly.
And
That's
very difficult for everyone.
That I think I have to agree with that as well. Though I think an interesting question to ask TJ would be, so in terms of mental health, who do you think is worst affected? You or your parents?
I guess my parents.
Fair enough.
Because they have to worry about the patients there in the wards. They have to worry about themselves. They also have to worry about their family members, that when we go back, would they be affected? And they also have to worry about all the financial implications. That yes, the wages have been reduced, the salaries have been reduced. So how will they continue to carry on the bread and butter and all the economic aspects of their family? So I think they are the worst affected.
That is very relevant.
Yeah, I think I agree with whatever TJ said as well. But like healthcare workers, it's difficult for them because they've been working in intensive care and emergency departments. So they're like not only high at risk for infections, but also like psychologically they can get affected. And other than that, it's also like families who have children at home. It's kind of difficult for them as well to like homeschool and having low household incomes. So everybody's fighting their own battles at this moment.
Yeah, especially I think for healthcare workers, it might be relevant to say that we have healthcare workers at least have always had a history with things like burnout and depression, anxiety and suicide, especially here in Malaysia and I think in India as well. So it's definitely something to keep in mind during this crisis. So we have a general idea of sort of how everyone experienced the crisis, who we think is very much affected. But do you think that the people who need the most help in terms of mental health have been getting that help?
Not necessarily, because at least in India, I don't think people believe in any kind of, mental illness. And therapists are basically, they call them mad people. Literally, they call them mad people. So people are not aware about how serious mental illness can be in India. So they just go about trying to do the best they can, at least.
Is it that serious in India? Like when it comes to mental health, like
Yes.
does no one believe it?
No, I mean, one whose parents are really educated or like they're in the medical field, then probably you meet a psychologist or someone. Otherwise, a psychologist is a person who treats mad people, so nobody would like go to them.
Like it's still a stigma.
Yeah,
It's still
Yeah.
a stigma.
Yeah.
that is a tough issue.
Yeah, I completely agree with Atik, because I have seen a lot of people in this time who, they are really susceptible to depression, because before the lockdown they were going through some personal problems and everything, and suddenly quarantine came in.
Mhm.
Their life came to a halt.
Yeah.
And at that moment, like in the university campus, we always have that befrienders thing.
Yeah.
That you can call them and you can ask them for any guidance, advice, if you have any such. So Malaysia is kind of open to these things, but in India, the build-up of the society, the thinking from the historical effects and everything, our society has been brought up in this way that if you start thinking about any kind of mental illness, like maybe depression or even anxiety, you are straight away clubbed into that category of people in mental asylum. Okay, so it's like either you are sane or you are totally insane, like those insane people we see in mental asylums.
There's no middle ground.
Exactly. And that fear of getting clubbed in that category of the mental asylum patients, that is having an even worse effect on the people and giving them more mental issues.
That's true. I think just on your comment about befrienders is great. So if anyone like listening to this podcast happens to have any problems, befrienders, they are always open towards giving advice. You can find their phone number actually. You can just Google befrienders. It is, I think, an NGO if I'm not mistaken. So in terms of mental health awareness in Malaysia, I think it's relevant to ask a Malaysian. Shashin, what are your thoughts on this?
I think for students and children, it's still okay because they are younger, so they are more exposed to the internet and technology and stuff. So most schools, they have student support programs.
Yeah, that's true.
Like I'm about to go to Newcastle University, UK. So they have this student support group for us when we're in UK, and even when we're in Malaysia, like right now. Yeah, and for children, like there are a lot of courses online, like Future Learn, that they provide activities, and they sort of increase their awareness about mental health.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I went through one or two of the online courses, and I find it very useful, especially for children.
I see. But what about for adults? You mentioned like children and students. How working adults?
Yeah, adults, I think it's also about the stigma, like the Malaysian stigma here. Like they don't really prioritize our mental health.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like we're used to the Asian kiasuness and the Asian stress.
Yeah, I agree with the Asian stress part. Basically, I think the same issue in India, where people like just say, you're stressed, you're depressed, like suck it up, sort of like like if you're a guy, be a man. So that definitely exists. I guess one part of it, the reason it is there, sort of historically, is because, I mean, for us, our communities, our societies, we have always had a hard life. And a lot of people, I mean, if you think about it, right, people in a poorer sort of economic status, they are going to experience depression, anxiety, etc. And they obviously are not going to seek help for it, which means a lot of the people telling us to like suck it up and just deal with it had to suck it up and deal with it themselves when they had these issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, that was the main point I was trying to make, and you just explained it through and through. We have been brought up in this way to just suck it up all.
I think that now for the people who had been struggling because of poverty and stuff, they
Mm-hmm.
basically their daily lives was filled with depression. So it became
Yeah.
such a normal thing that they didn't think you need like special help. But
Mm-hmm.
now that we have like these great lives, we have like a
Yeah.
lot of happiness and positivity. The minute we have some negativity or like we feel depressed, we are like we need help.
Mm.
It just balances out like the generation gap basically.
Yeah, I think there is something in that. If I remember correctly from our mental health course at NewMed, there was this one term. It's called resilience.
Yeah.
So it's like you need to build up your resilience. So it's not just being positive. It's also having like this barrier where if something negative crops up, you're able to like deal with it in a constructive manner. Okay, let's start with what can a person do for themselves to sort of improve their mental health right now?
Obviously, like mental health kind of manifests differently in people. So it's really subjective in that way. So, like, not everyone reacts the same way, and it is harder on some people than others.
Yep.
So, in that way, like, I think as of right now, we don't have a lot of like outdoor options, obviously. So,
Yeah.
things which you can like express yourself as like maybe writing or like music,
Mm-hmm.
or I think most of us are really just like binge watching shows right now.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, so just maybe be more positive, and
Mm-hmm.
social interaction is really important. Although we are like practicing physical distancing, we should be
Yeah.
socially intact
Connect.
as well. Yeah, connect, talk to people, and yeah.
I actually agree that every person has a different manifestation for the same disease. So when I was going through this lockdown, I'll share a very personal thing that helped me actually.
Mm-hmm.
You can always binge watch shows, you can talk to your friends, you can talk to your parents,
Yes.
you can try going out. But the one thing that really helped me was talking to myself. I'll just sit in
Yes.
front of the mirror. I'll just take the person in the mirror as another person who's my twin, and I'll share all my problems, and suddenly the solutions, the positive effect would immediately start coming to me. I'll feel that my problems are being solved just by talking to myself. It could be weird sometimes, but it actually helped, and it helped me a lot.
I think that's
Wow.
true. Like, like writing is really liberating that way. Like, you have a lot
Yeah,
of thoughts that spiral
yeah.
around you. But when you like write it down, you actually see what the problem is. So, like,
That's
yeah,
true.
yeah.
Well, I must say though that image of TJ talking to himself is now embedded in my mind. But that's a really interesting tip, TJ. Thank you for that.
I think for me, what has helped me through the lockdown is basically staying connected with my friends. Like,
Mm.
I just had someone to talk to, share my like everyday minute of my life. So like I felt like, there is someone with me, like also in the same
Mm-hmm.
situation. So you don't feel
Yeah.
alone even when you're depressed or like,
Mm-hmm.
you feel anxious or whatever. So
That's true.
just to have someone like, video calling and stuff, it's like
Mm.
great.
Okay, I think mental health is an issue that is subject to the person and the environment that he or she is
Mm-hmm.
in, and how he or she grows up in.
Okay.
So, what has helped me to regain my mental health is like to do things that you enjoy and the things that you are passionate about.
Okay. Could you give us some examples?
Yeah, so I've been reading a lot during my time in
Mm-hmm.
UMed. So like I read Anne's Diary and a few other books which I forgot what they
Okay.
are, and I did a lot of home workouts and online courses. And one of the most important things is to make a list of what you want to do during this lockdown, because we can't go out. There are not so much of outdoor activities.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like what we can do when we are at home.
That's true. So basically, just get a bucket list of stuff you want to do at home.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a good suggestion as well. What another question I wanted to ask all of you, right? So that's the stuff we can do like for ourselves. Do you perhaps have any suggestions in terms of what the government, I guess, can do for its citizens in terms of mental health?
The governments in India and Malaysia can be really different. And the major contribution for that goes to the population. Population of India is like 20 times more than the Malaysia. And same is the intensity of the COVID. So the amount of work related to mental health the Malaysian government can do for their citizens would be way more than what the Indian government can do. And when you talk about such an epidemic, I guess things like mental health and counseling would be way down on the list when a government has a checklist to do its work. So I guess we can expect government to put up things like the toll-free helplines to call when you have any kind of depressing thoughts or defender kinds of thing. You can always have those social centers which are active during the normal times, wherein you can just go and talk to a counselor, the local support groups. But I guess in this time of emergency, when our government is busy battling the COVID, wherein they are arranging more hospitals, more doctors, they are fighting to get medicines, this is more of our responsibility to take care of ourselves. We should not rely on government for everything. It's their job to provide us with facilities, but government really has more prior stuff to do. And I think till the time government sorts out different things and makes a way up till the mental health stuff, we should take care of our own selves. So we are still in the good state of mind to protect ourselves, our family, and just keep going on with life.
It's a very part positive and part inspiring message. Very nice, TJ.
I think that's true, like what TJ said about the biggest help the government can do for us right now is to control the cases and like somehow end the pandemic. Because a lot of all these mental illness that are due to the pandemic, it will only end when the pandemic ends. So right now the government has to handle it. We need to lessen their burden, right? So I think we need to take care of ourselves, and there are many helplines. It doesn't have to be specifically government helplines.
That's true. Okay, thank you, Atik. So one point I'll pick from both TJ's part and Atik's part is like the support group idea. So I'll just put this out there. Ideally, right, communities could have their own support groups, especially among like friends and neighbors. Like just get a weekly group meeting where people come around, talk about their problems, and then sort of give each other support. I think that would be a great idea, like done locally. So like within your own community. But the next thing I wanted to mention was actually family. Okay, I'm assuming during the lockdown, a lot of you were with your families, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. In terms of interaction with your family during the lockdown, did you try and interact more with them, bond more with your families during the lockdown? Because if from our own medical course, having a good support network with your family is actually a very good indicator of resilience when facing mental health.
I think I have very low resilience. I don't interact with my parents as much. I mean, I do interact with them, but like it's at this point, I just mostly interact with my friends stuff. We are all together at one place. Yeah, we talk about things, but we never get to the part where we talk about, mental illness or what's going on around the world.
Yeah.
About me and my studies or something like that. Right now, and in the pandemic, I think the interaction has gone way down. I don't think I have that much resilience.
That's another thing. The fact that despite all of us being stuck at home, I mean, the same place basically, but like interaction has actually gone down.
Honestly, it's so ironic.
Yeah,
I never expected that. Like I so many months, and after coming back, I thought I'd be like spending 24/7 with my parents, but I don't know.
I think that's something to think about, especially with the Asian sort of fixation on families, how important family is.
My kind of time was kind of the opposite. So I did get to spend quite a lot of time with my family in that way. So it's just like simple things really, like even if we're watching a movie, we make it a point that everybody's there in the same room, or like even like just having a meal together. So we just, although like, there's like work from home and all that things going on, we just make it a point to have like spend time together at one point of the day. So otherwise, like it gets a little crazy.
Sure. I mean, I think it's worthwhile remembering, like how TJ told us just now, our parents probably are experiencing a much greater mental load during this time.
Yes.
So, if we are talking about mental illness and if we are talking about taking charge ourselves, it might be worth considering to take charge in your own homes by listening to your parents. I mean, not in that obedient listening. I mean, like actually listening to their worries and their troubles and sort of providing comfort, because technically, like, we are the most immediate person there.
My case in the quarantine has been quite opposite to what Atik and Chishian have witnessed. So, because especially from my childhood, I have been termed as what we call a mama's boy. And especially as I come from a Punjabi Indian background, families are kept on a really high pedestal.
Yeah, that's true.
Anything you have to do, you go through or you watch, or you discuss it with family, you take everyone's opinion and you do it together, especially. So I guess even though they are frontline workers and they are busy in the wards and everything and they come late, whenever they are back, we never miss an opportunity to sit together, have a chat, do small things like gardening or watch a movie. So I think this quarantine has brought us very close, and we have been able to see everyone really closely. And I guess this time was really required because in the daily hassles of work, with me being busy in the university and they both were busy in hospitals, I think this time was really important so that we could just take a break from life, get to know each other, spend some quality time, and just go back to the principles what were instilled in our culture.
That's very wholesome thing to say. Thank you, TJ. Okay, I think it's time to wrap up. We've talked about a number of interesting things. So let's have your final thoughts. Let's start with Cheshin.
Well, this pandemic really took us by surprise. A lot of things didn't go as we planned. And that includes our plans for this September when we are going to UK. So a lot of things got delayed, and that includes our visa and stuff. So it's actually very frustrating right now. But I think that compared to the others, like the frontline workers and the old people and other people and stuff, like I think we're lucky enough.
That's true. So in short, you're saying that we should be grateful that we aren't in a worse situation.
Yeah, like everyone's affected, but it's lucky that we still have food on the table and stuff. Like we have a roof over our head.
That's true.
I think the last two things that I would want to say is probably it's okay not to be okay, because you're upset. Like literally everybody else is right now upset and everybody's fighting their own evils. So don't feel alone in this pandemic. Like you're the only one who's like, been targeted by fate or something. So just try to get through the pandemic. That's all I'm going to say. And one thing is stay connected with people, because that actually helps a lot.
True. TJ?
So I would like to end on a thought that the doctors here in India have a very common saying to the patients right these days, that that if you have a roof on your head, you have bread on your table, and you have family by your side, consider yourself lucky than the crores of people, then the millions of people who are still struggling with this corona stuff. So I guess we all are really lucky. We have families by our side. We have not been facing any financial implications, and we have been well taken care of. We have our friends, we have our families, we have our government supporting us. We spend some really good time with our family. So I think we should feel lucky. And another thing that I would like to end on is that it's high time people should start giving up on their fear of COVID-19. Like now we have really good drugs that are capable of curing the disease within like 2 weeks, but still the stigma and the fear of COVID-19 is still there in the hearts of people. It's a good thing to keep precaution, but you should not be over scared or over traumatized from this thing that it starts affecting your mental health.
That's true. Although I will just make a correction about the drugs part. That is not 100% conclusive yet. Studies are still ongoing.
Yeah, I was
continue.
We had a breakthrough.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I think it's remdesivir, and then there was some other drugs as well. So, but they're still on trial.
Arvind, just to add on, like
Yes.
in India, we not the remdesivir. We have been using COVID-19 special drugs. Special drugs have been made by the Indian Council of Medical Research that have been used in the hospitals that are specially designed for COVID-19. So
Interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
so the name of the drug is Fabiflu and others, but their effects, they are like specially designed for COVID-19 and they have been showing their effects within 5 days. So you test negative in 2 weeks.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But I would say that it's best to be precautionary because
Exactly.
drugs are not meant to be created in 6 months. They are meant to be done in like 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We will all just suspend our joy on that until everything is 100% confirmed.
Don't give up on your precautions, but don't let the fear affect your mental health.
That is very true.
Yeah, to add on to that, it's like misinformation is dangerous. So it's good to keep yourself updated, but it's also important to take it easy and not overfeed your mind, and that makes you anxious. So to put it down simply, that it's great to make use of this time, do something productive, but it's absolutely okay to cut yourself some slack and, just breathe.
That's true. That's very true. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining in today's podcast. This is Arvind, and we had with us today Atira, Atik, TJ, and Chashin. So, this is the Second Opinion signing out. Thank you.